Forget baby showers with pastel onesies and a simple cake. Forget even royal weddings with their horse-drawn carriages and waving crowds. When the Medici family welcomed a new life, they did not merely throw a party. They orchestrated an event that devoured fortunes, captivated entire cities, and rewrote the definition of opulence. These were not mere christenings. They were meticulously planned theatrical productions, grand spectacles of power, wealth, and dynasty, designed to stun, impress, and cement their legendary status. From diamond-encrusted swaddling clothes to banquets groaning under the weight of gold platters and roasted peacocks, these were the ultimate flexes of Renaissance Europe. Prepare to dive into a world where baby blessings were truly fit for kings. Number 5. The grand entrance of Eleonora de Medici in 1567. Florence buzzed with an extraordinary energy in 1567. The air, usually thick with the scent of leather and spices from the workshops, now carried an undertone of sweet preparations, of baking and floral arrangements, promising something immense. This was not just any year, it was the year a new Medici child, Eleonora, daughter of Francesco, the first day Medici and Joanna of Austria, was to be formally welcomed into the world and into the grand lineage. The anticipation had been building for weeks, ever since the news of the birth had swept through the city, carried by swift riders and amplified by the joyful pealing of church bells. The Grand Ducal Palace, now known as Palazzo Pitti, was a hive of activity, its vast courtyards echoing with the footsteps of artisans, servants, and noble visitors. Every corner was being prepared, from the immense kitchens where master chefs devised menus of unparalleled complexity to the vast halls awaiting transformation into scenes of breathtaking beauty. The christening ceremony itself was a masterpiece of orchestrated display, beginning with a procession that was less a simple walk and more a moving tapestry of Florentine power and privilege. The route from Palazzo Pitti to the Baptistery of San Giovanni was meticulously cleaned and decorated. Tapestries woven with gold and silver thread, depicting scenes from ancient Roman history and the Medici's own illustrious past, hung from windows along the Via Maggio and Borgo San Jacopo, shimmering in the Florentine sun. Banners bearing the Medici coat of arms, the famed 6 red balls on a gold field, fluttered from every lamppost, interspersed with the black double-headed eagle of the Habsburgs, acknowledging Joanna of Austria's imperial lineage. Musicians positioned at key intersections played triumphal fanfares on trumpets and drums, their sounds mingling with the excited murmurs of the gathered crowds. The procession began with heralds, dressed in sumptuous liveries of red and white velvet, their trumpets proclaiming the start of the event. They were followed by a detachment of the ducal guard, their polished armor glinting, their halberds held aloft. Then came the city magistrates, soberly, yet richly dressed in robes of dark brocade, their faces stern, but betraying a hint of awe. Guild representatives, each displaying the symbols of their craft, marched with pride, followed by members of the Florentine nobility, vying with each other in the extravagance of their attire. Their silks were of the finest Venetian and Genoese weave, their velvets imported from Flanders, their jewels catching the light with every step. Diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and pearls adorned their doublets, bodices, and feathered hats, turning the street into a river of glittering wealth. The heart of the procession was, of course, the infant Eleonora, carried by a noble wet nurse. The child herself was enveloped in a christening gown that was a testament to the family's boundless resources. It was not merely white linen. It was heavy, Florentine silk, embroidered with pearls and delicate gold thread, a miniature masterpiece. Her swaddling bands, traditionally simple, were here adorned with tiny, perfectly cut diamonds that winked like captured stars. Around her, a canopy of gold brocade, supported by 4 of the most senior Medici courtiers, shielded her from the direct sun and added an aura of sacred importance. Grand Duke Francesco I, dressed in a magnificent suit of dark purple velvet, embroidered with silver and pearls, walked alongside his wife, Joanna of Austria, who wore a gown of rich crimson velvet, its sleeves and train edged with ermine, her dark hair adorned with a diamond-studded net. Their presence cemented the event's significance, a public display of their dynastic strength. Upon reaching the Baptistery of San Giovanni, the crowds parted to allow the procession to enter. The Baptistery, already a jewel of Florentine architecture with its famous bronze doors by Ghiberti, had been transformed for the occasion. Inside, the octagonal space glowed with the light of countless beeswax candles placed in towering candelabras of gilded bronze. The air was thick with the scent of frankincense and myrrh. The ancient baptismal font, typically stark, was now draped with lengths of cloth of gold, embroidered with the Medici arms and the Habsburg eagle, and surrounded by arrangements of freshly cut roses, lilies, and fragrant orange blossoms. Priests, in vestments of the purest white silk adorned with gold and silver embroidery, stood ready. The ceremony was conducted with solemn dignity, witnessed by the assembled elite of Florence and foreign ambassadors, each keenly observing every detail for clues to the Medici's power and intentions. The godparents chosen for their political alliances and high status were figures of immense European consequence, their attendance underscoring the Medici's international standing. They included representatives from the imperial court and other significant Italian states, their presence a formal recognition of the newborn's place in a web of powerful alliances. Following the sacred rite, the celebrations shifted to the Palazzo Pitti, where a banquet of legendary proportions awaited. The grand halls had been prepared with exquisite taste, transforming them into veritable palaces within a palace. Long tables covered with damask tablecloths of the finest Florentine linen gleamed under the light of hundreds of candles. The tableware itself was a sight to behold: solid gold platters and bowls, silver serving dishes chased with intricate designs, crystal goblets sparkling with wine, and delicate porcelain from China, a rare and highly prized commodity. The menu was a testament to the Medici's global reach and culinary ambition. Roast peacocks, their iridescent plumage carefully reattached after cooking, lay alongside boars' heads adorned with garlands, venison from the Grand Ducal hunts, and a dizzying array of poultry and fish. Exotic spices imported from the East flavored every dish, from saffron-infused risottos to cinnamon-laced tarts. Pastries of every description, shaped into intricate allegorical figures and mythological beasts, filled the air with sweet aromas. The most impressive display was a series of sugar sculptures, each a foot high, depicting scenes from the life of Saint John the Baptist and the Medici family's triumphs, crafted with such precision that they resembled white marble. During the feast, entertainment unfolded seamlessly. Musicians positioned in galleries above played intricate madrigals and lively dance tunes on lutes, viols, and harps. Tumblers and acrobats performed feats of agility. Comedians enacted short, witty plays, their dialogue sharp and amusing. For the more serious guests, poets recited verses composed especially for the occasion, praising the Medici lineage and the hopeful future of the new child. The conversation flowed freely, a mix of high politics, artistic discussions, and personal pleasantries, all underscored by the clinking of glasses and the rustle of luxurious fabrics. Rare wines flowed from silver ewers, and sweet wines were offered with the dessert courses. This was not merely a meal, it was a sensory immersion, a performance in itself, designed to delight and impress every guest. The gifts presented to the infant Eleonora were not toys. They were investments, symbols of status, and expressions of fealty. Godparents presented caskets filled with freshly minted gold ducats, silver goblets, and intricately carved ivory objects. Ambassadors offered jewels of considerable size and brilliance, necklaces of pearls, rings set with large rubies, and brooches crafted in the shapes of flowers or animals encrusted with diamonds. One notable gift was a miniature illuminated manuscript bound in velvet and gold, containing prayers and blessings, its tiny paintings rendered with astonishing detail. Merchants and bankers, eager to maintain their favor with the ruling family, sent bolts of the finest silk and velvet, exquisitely embroidered linens, and chests filled with aromatic spices and rare perfumes. These were not simply presents, they were tributes, cementing the social and economic ties that bound Florence to its ruling family. The celebrations extended beyond the palace walls and the formal banquet. For the common people of Florence, the christening of a Medici child was a cause for public festivity and a chance to witness the splendor of their rulers. In the Piazza della Signoria and other public squares, fountains were made to flow, not with water, but with wine, allowing citizens to drink freely and toast the new arrival. The streets were filled with street performers, storytellers, and musicians, creating a carnival-like atmosphere. In the evenings, grand fireworks displays lit up the Florentine sky, showering sparks of gold and silver over the Arno River, reflected in its dark waters. Torchlit parades wound through the city, with costume figures reenacting historical events or mythological scenes. These public spectacles reinforced the Medici's role as benefactors and patrons of the city, ensuring popular goodwill and celebrating a shared future. The festivities did not end with the banquet. The following days saw a series of private events for the most esteemed guests. There were masked balls in the grand halls of Palazzo Pitti, where guests danced until dawn, their identities playfully concealed behind elaborate masks. Hunting parties were organized in the Grand Ducal preserves, allowing nobles to engage in their favorite pastime, followed by outdoor feasts. There were also more formal theatrical performances, often specially commissioned plays or operas, complete with elaborate sets and costumes, staged in temporary theaters erected within the palace grounds. Every element, from the music to the lighting, was designed to create an immersive and unforgettable experience. The christening of Eleonora de Medici was thus not a single event, but a multi-day festival, a seamless blend of sacred ritual, political display, artistic patronage, and sheer, unadulterated luxury, creating a lasting impression of the Medici's unparalleled grandeur. Number 4. The lavish arrival of Giovanni di Cosimo, the first de Medici, in 1543. In the mid-16th century, Florence was a city of unparalleled artistic and intellectual ferment, but it was also a city firmly under the sway of the Medici Grand Dukes. Cosimo I de' Medici, a figure of formidable ambition and intellect, was diligently consolidating his power, transforming the family from bankers into true European royalty. The birth of his second son, Giovanni, in 1543, was not merely a family affair, it was a critical moment for the dynasty, a public declaration of stability, succession, and the flourishing of the Medici line. The city braced itself for a display of wealth and influence that would echo through the courts of Europe. The weeks leading up to Giovanni's christening were a frenzy of preparation within the Palazzo Vecchio, the seat of Cosimo's power before the move to the Pitti. Every hall, every chamber, every corridor of the ancient palace was being readied. And master weavers worked tirelessly on new tapestries, embroiderers embellished existing ones with fresh Medici symbols, and silversmiths polished ancestral treasures. The kitchens, under the command of dozens of chefs, were planning a feast of unimaginable scale, sending out orders for exotic ingredients that arrived from distant lands. The very air seemed to hum with anticipation, a sweet, exciting tremor that vibrated through the narrow streets of Florence. The christening procession was a meticulously choreographed parade designed to impress upon onlookers the sheer might and prestige of the Medici. The route from the Palazzo Vecchio to the Baptistery was lined with soldiers bearing the Medici colors, their polished armor reflecting the autumn light. Florentine citizens, dressed in their finest, jostled for a glimpse of the spectacle. Along the way, temporary arches of triumph, decorated with painted allegories and garlands of fresh flowers, were erected. These arches were not just decorative, they were didactic, celebrating the Medici's return to power and their role as enlightened rulers. Musicians, strategically placed, played music that shifted from solemn fanfares to celebratory tunes, marking the rhythm of the march. Leading the procession were members of the various Florentine confraternities, each carrying their distinctive banners. Then came the city officials, their robes of office heavy with brocade and fur. The diplomatic corps followed, each ambassador displaying the colors and heraldry of their respective nations, a colorful testament to the Medici's international standing. Following them were the vast retinue of the Medici household, including chamberlains, secretaries, and guards, all impeccably dressed in new liveries. The Florentine nobility, vying for proximity to Cosimo and Eleonora, formed a glittering throng, their attire a kaleidoscope of rich silks, velvets, and jewels. One chronicler of the time noted the astonishing array of diamonds, pearls, and precious stones that adorned the noblewomen's gowns, each piece a small fortune. The infant Giovanni was carried by a high-ranking noblewoman, often chosen from the family of the godparents. He was swaddled in a christening robe so fine it was whispered to have been woven from spider silk, though in reality it was likely the finest Chinese silk embroidered with threads of pure gold and pearls. The gown alone was said to be worth a king's ransom. A canopy of crimson velvet, heavily embroidered with the Medici coat of arms in gold thread and silver bells, was carried above him by 4 noblemen, adding to the visual grandeur and symbolic protection. Grand Duke Cosimo I, a picture of stern power, walked beside his beloved wife Eleonora of Toledo. Cosimo wore a doublet of dark green velvet, subtly embroidered with gold. Eleonora, known for her exquisite taste and vast personal wealth, was a vision in a gown of shimmering silver brocade, adorned with an unprecedented number of pearls, so many that they cascaded down her sleeves and bodice like frozen raindrops. Her dark hair was styled simply, but held in place by a jewel-encrusted diadem. Her presence was a testament to the stability and prosperity she brought to the Medici household. Upon reaching the Baptistery of San Giovanni, the main doors, usually closed, were flung open, revealing an interior transformed. The light filtering through the alabaster windows caught the dust, motes dancing in the air, creating a mystical glow. The ancient mosaics of the dome seemed to gleam with renewed intensity. The octagonal baptismal font, usually a stark stone, was now draped with heavy brocade cloths of royal blue and gold, adorned with the Medici and Habsburg arms. Countless candles, arranged in elaborate gilded candelabras, illuminated every corner, casting long, dancing shadows. The scent of myrrh and incense filled the air, mingling with the sweeter notes of the hundreds of fresh flowers that adorned the altar and the font, primarily white lilies and orange blossoms, symbolizing purity and prosperity. The ceremony itself was conducted with the utmost solemnity by the Archbishop of Florence, attended by a host of priests and clerics in their most elaborate vestments. The godparents for Giovanni were carefully selected from among the most powerful ruling houses of Italy and Europe, their presence a political statement as much as a religious one, signifying the Medici's growing web of alliances. The feast that followed at the Palazzo Vecchio was an event of legendary excess. The Salone de Cinquecento, the vast hall of 500, was transformed into a banquet hall fit for the gods. Very long tables groaned under the weight of gold and silver platters, each piece a work of art. The tablecloths were of the finest Venetian lace, overlaid with embroidered silks. The air was filled with the aroma of roasted meats, exotic spices, and sweet pastries. The menu was a display of culinary extravagance: swans roasted whole and reassembled, pheasants with gilded beaks, wild boar heads adorned with laurel wreaths, and fish from the Tyrrhenian Sea. The sugar sculptures, a particular favorite of the time, were everywhere, depicting mythological scenes, architectural wonders, and allegories of Medici virtue, all crafted with astonishing detail. One particularly celebrated sculpture was a life-sized lion, the symbol of Florence, made entirely of sugar, its mane intricately carved. During the extensive meal, which lasted for several hours, a continuous stream of entertainment unfolded. Musicians played delicate compositions on lutes and harps, their melodies weaving through the chatter of the guests. Singers performed madrigals that told tales of love and heroism. Acrobats performed incredible feats of balance and agility, and jesters provided comic relief. More elaborate performances included short theatrical pieces, often with allegorical themes celebrating the Medici dynasty, complete with moving sets and special effects. The flow of wine was endless, from the finest Chianti to rare imported vintages, served in exquisite crystal goblets. Every sense was engaged, from the visual splendor of the decorations and costumes to the tantalizing aromas and flavors of the food, and the rich sounds of music and laughter. This was a multisensory experience designed to overwhelm and impress every single guest. The gifts presented to the infant Giovanni were not merely tokens, they were statements of allegiance and wealth. The godparents presented gifts of immense value: caskets overflowing with gold florins, exquisite jewels such as emeralds and sapphires set in gold, and intricate silver figurines. Ambassadors from foreign courts brought rare items, Persian rugs of breathtaking beauty, bolts of Chinese silk, and delicate Venetian glass. Prominent Florentine families presented objects d'art, including small bronze sculptures by celebrated masters, illuminated manuscripts, and painted miniatures. Merchants and bankers, understanding the importance of patronage, offered chests of rare spices, exotic perfumes, and fine Florentine leather goods. These gifts were immediately catalogued and displayed, further cementing the Medici's image as patrons of art and recipients of the world's finest treasures. The festivities surrounding Giovanni's christening were not confined to the palace. Cosimo I understood the importance of public goodwill. The city's squares became stages for popular celebrations. In the Piazza della Signoria, fountains were made to flow with wine for the common people, turning the usually somber square into a place of joyous revelry. The street performers entertained crowds with juggling, storytelling, and music. In the evenings, the Florentine sky was lit up by spectacular fireworks displays designed by master pyrotechnicians depicting scenes of triumph and celebration. Torchlit parades, often featuring citizens in historical costumes, wound through the streets, adding to the festive atmosphere. These public spectacles reinforced the Medici's bond with the city, transforming a private family event into a shared moment of civic pride and celebration. The celebrations continued for several days. There were grand balls, often held in the newly redecorated halls of the Palazzo Vecchio, where the Florentine nobility and their guests danced to the sounds of court musicians. Hunting parties were organized in the vast ducal estates outside the city, where guests could pursue game in the company of the Grand Duke himself. Private theatrical performances and masques were staged, showcasing the latest innovations in stagecraft and design. Each event was meticulously planned, down to the smallest detail, ensuring that every moment was a testament to the Medici's power, wealth, and sophisticated taste. The christening of Giovanni de Cosimo I de' Medici was an unforgettable milestone, a dazzling affirmation of the Medici dynasty's. Number 3, the princely birth of Francesco I de' Medici in 1541. The year 1541 heralded a new era for Florence, an era solidified by the birth of Francesco, the first son of Cosimo I de' Medici and Eleonora of Toledo. This was not just any birth, it was the birth of a direct heir to the newly established Grand Ducal line. The Medici, having navigated treacherous political waters, needed to project an image of unshakable stability and burgeoning power. Francesco's christening was conceived as a monumental demonstration of this ambition, transforming a sacred rite into a grand pageant that would resonate throughout Europe. Florence braced itself for a spectacle that would redefine opulence. Preparations for the event began almost immediately after the news of the birth spread. The Palazzo Medici, then the primary residence of the ducal family, became a hive of activity. Its ancient walls, witness to generations of Medici power, were meticulously prepared. Artisans from across Florence were commissioned to create new decorations, from intricate tapestries depicting biblical scenes and classical myths to delicate floral arrangements that would scent the entire palace. Cooks began sourcing the rarest ingredients, dispatching servants to distant markets and ports for exotic spices, unique game, and the finest wines. The anticipation among the Florentine populace was palpable. They knew a Medici christening was a chance to witness unparalleled magnificence. The christening procession was an extraordinary display of civic and dynastic pride. The chosen route from the Palazzo Medici to the Baptistery of San Giovanni was transformed into a triumphal way. Roads were swept clean and fresh sand was laid down to cushion the footsteps of the procession. Every window along the route was draped with colorful fabrics, many of them rich brocades and velvets, lent by noble families or specially commissioned by the ducal court. Festoons of green, laurel, and myrtle, intertwined with vibrant flowers, hung between buildings, releasing their sweet perfume into the autumn air. Banners emblazoned with the Medici coat of arms, alongside the imperial eagle of Eleanor's Spanish lineage, fluttered from every corner, proclaiming the unity of the new ducal house. Music filled the streets from strategically placed ensembles of trumpeters and drummers, their powerful fanfares heralding the approach of the ducal party. The procession commenced with a vanguard of the ducal guard, their uniforms immaculate, their halberds gleaming. Following them were representatives of Florence's most prominent guilds, each identifiable by their distinctive costumes and the emblems of their trades. Then came the city magistrates, their sober but luxurious robes of office underscoring their civic authority. The Florentine nobility followed, a dazzling display of wealth and fashion. Gentlemen wore doublets of richly embroidered velvet, adorned with gold chains and jeweled brooches. Ladies were encased in gowns of shimmering silk and brocade, their bodices intricately laced, their sleeves puffed and slashed to reveal contrasting fabrics. The diamonds, pearls, and precious stones gleamed from every cuff, collar, and coiffure, turning the procession into a moving river of light. At the very heart of this grand march was the infant Francesco, carried by a high-ranking noblewoman, often the child's wet nurse or a close relative. The christening gown for Francesco was a masterpiece of European craftsmanship. It was not merely silk, but the finest Italian silk damask, intricately woven with motifs of laurel leaves and Medici spheres. The gown was embroidered with thousands of seed pearls and delicate gold threads, forming patterns that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Small diamonds were meticulously set into the embroidery, catching the light as the procession moved. A canopy of white satin, exquisitely embroidered with silver and gold, was held aloft over the infant by 4 prominent courtiers, adding an aura of almost divine sanctity. Its Grand Duke, Cosimo I, a stern but proud figure, walked alongside his wife, Eleonora of Toledo. Cosimo wore a suit of deep blue velvet, subtly embroidered with silver thread, his gaze fixed on the journey ahead. Eleonora, always the epitome of Spanish elegance and Medici wealth, was breathtaking in a gown of white satin, heavily adorned with ropes of pearls and emeralds that cascaded down her front. Her coif was set with a magnificent sapphire brooch. Her presence, a symbol of her fertility and the strength of the new dynasty, was central to the entire display. The Baptistery of San Giovanni, chosen for its historical and symbolic significance, was transformed into a sacred chamber of unparalleled beauty for the ceremony. Inside, hundreds of beeswax candles, arranged in towering candelabras of gilded bronze, cast a warm, flickering light upon the ancient mosaics of the dome, making the gold tesserae sparkle as if newly laid. The air was heavy with the rich scent of frankincense, mingled with the fresh fragrance of countless white lilies and orange blossoms arranged around the marble baptismal font. The font itself was draped in cloths of gold brocade, embroidered with the Medici and Toledan coats of arms, a visible blend of the powerful lineages. Priests, in their most splendid vestments, adorned with gold and silver embroidery, performed the sacred rites with utmost solemnity. The godparents, carefully chosen for their political influence and royal connections, included representatives from the Holy Roman Empire and other significant European courts, their presence validating the Medici's rising status on the international stage. The ensuing banquet at the Palazzo Medici was a legendary affair, a culinary and theatrical masterpiece. The grand courtyard of the palace, often used for public gatherings, was temporarily enclosed and transformed into an enormous banqueting hall, decorated with lavish tapestries, banners, and garlands of flowers. The tables, stretching for what seemed like an endless length, were covered with fine damask tablecloths and laden with an astonishing array of tableware, solid gold platters and bowls, silver serving dishes, crystal goblets, and rare porcelain from China, a commodity so precious it was valued more highly than gold. The menu was an astonishing feat of gastronomic engineering. Roasted peacocks, their iridescent feathers meticulously reassembled after cooking, were presented alongside gilded swans, whole roasted boars adorned with fresh herbs, and an incredible variety of game birds and fish. Exotic spices from the east, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and saffron flavored nearly every dish, from elaborate meat pies to delicate pastries. The most captivating elements were the sugar sculptures known as trionfi, which adorned the tables. These were not merely decorations. They were intricate, edible allegories depicting scenes from the life of St. John the Baptist, mythological narratives, and triumphs of the Medici family. One particularly famous triunfo was a full-scale replica of the Florence Cathedral's dome, rendered entirely in sugar, standing several feet high. Throughout the long banquet, which could last for many hours, a continuous stream of entertainment unfolded. Musicians played soft melodies on lutes and harps, transitioning to lively dance tunes as the evening progressed. Singers performed complex madrigals. Actors and jesters performed short comedic skits. More elaborate entertainment included short allegorical plays, often with special effects and intricate costumes, designed to praise the Medici and their new heir. The flow of wine from the Medici's own vineyards and from imported vintages was ceaseless, poured from silver ewers into crystal goblets. Every aspect of the feast was designed to overwhelm the senses, a feast for the eyes, the palate, and the ears, leaving guests in no doubt of the Medici's boundless resources. The gifts presented to the infant Francesco were a testament to the family's immense power and connections. Godparents, representing powerful European houses, presented chests filled with gold ducats, jewels of dazzling brilliance, large emeralds, rubies, and ropes of perfect pearls, and exquisite works of art, including miniature paintings and intricately carved ivory pieces. Ambassadors brought gifts symbolizing their nation's finest craftsmanship, bolts of pure silk, rare furs, and exotic animals, though the latter were usually housed in the ducal menagerie rather than brought to the ceremony. Florentine noble families, keen to secure their favor, offered finely wrought silver pieces, illuminated manuscripts, and precious relics. Merchants contributed chests of spices, rare perfumes, and finely tooled leather goods. Each gift was a tangible expression of loyalty and a symbol of the Medici's central position in European politics and commerce. Beyond the palace walls, the christening of Francesco was a cause for city-wide celebration. Cosimo, the first, understood the importance of popular support, and the city's squares and streets became stages for public festivities. In the Piazza della Signoria, several fountains were made to flow with wine for the common people, who gathered to drink and toast the new heir. The street performers, including acrobats, jugglers, and storytellers, entertained the crowds. In the evenings, the Florentine sky was lit up by magnificent fireworks displays, carefully choreographed to depict allegorical scenes or the Medici coat of arms, showering sparks of gold and silver over the Arno. Torchlit parades featuring citizens in historical costumes added to the festive atmosphere, weaving through the illuminated streets. These public displays ensured that even the humblest citizen felt a part of the Medici's triumph, solidifying their popular appeal. The celebrations extended for several days beyond the formal christening and banquet. There were often grand balls where the nobility danced until the early hours. Hunting parties were organized in the ducal hunting grounds, allowing guests to participate in noble sport. Private theatrical performances, including masques and early operas, were staged within the palace, showcasing the Medici's patronage of the arts and their innovative spirit. These post-ceremony events ensured that the impact of the christening lingered, a prolonged demonstration of wealth, power, and cultural sophistication. The christening of Francesco I de' Medici was an unforgettable milestone, a meticulously crafted spectacle that firmly established the Medici as the ruling dynasty of Florence and a formidable power on the European stage. Number 2, the magnificent christening of Cosimo II de' Medici in 1590. By 1590, the Medici family had firmly established their Grand Ducal rule over Tuscany, their power consolidated, their wealth immense, and their cultural patronage renowned throughout Europe. The birth of Cosimo II, son of Ferdinando I de' Medici and Christine of Lorraine, was therefore an event of extraordinary significance. He was the direct heir, the future Grand Duke, and his christening was planned as a truly magnificent affirmation of the dynasty's continued strength, a dazzling public display of wealth, connections, and sophisticated taste designed to impress not only the Florentines but all of Europe. The preparations for Cosimo II's christening consumed Florence for months. The Palazzo Pitti, now the primary residence of the Grand Ducal family, became a whirlwind of activity. Every hall, every gallery, every courtyard was being meticulously prepared for the multi-day festivities. Artisans from all corners of Tuscany were engaged in creating new tapestries, embroidering grand banners with the Medici and Lorraine coats of arms, and crafting intricate silver and gold decorations. The master chefs devised menus of unparalleled complexity, ordering rare ingredients from across the globe, spices from the Indies, exotic fruits from the Levant, and game from the distant ducal preserves. The very air in Florence vibrated with a sense of excitement and anticipation. A grand celebration was approaching. The christening procession was designed as a living tableau of Medici power. The route from Palazzo Pitti across the Ponte Vecchio and through the heart of Florence to the Baptistery of San Giovanni was transformed into a ceremonial thoroughfare. Streets were meticulously cleaned and the ancient paving stones were covered with fresh, fragrant herbs and rushes. Every building along the route was draped with rich silks and velvets and vibrant hues, often embroidered with allegorical figures or the Medici's distinctive spheres. Arches of triumph, elaborately decorated with painted frescoes and garlands of fresh flowers, spanned key intersections, bearing inscriptions that extolled the virtues of the Medici family and their new heir. Musicians, strategically positioned along the route, played majestic fanfares on silver trumpets, their powerful sounds echoing off the historic buildings, mingling with the excited murmurs of the crowds. The procession itself began with a vanguard of the Grand Ducal Guard, their uniforms resplendent, their halberds glinting in the sun. They were followed by a seemingly endless array of Florentine officials, members of various guilds, and representatives of the city's most ancient and powerful families, each dressed in their most sumptuous attire, vying for attention. The diplomatic corps from across Europe formed a particularly impressive sight, with ambassadors from Spain, France, the Holy Roman Empire, Venice, and the Papal States, all displaying the rich liveries and heraldry of their respective courts. Following them were the numerous members of the Medici court, including chamberlains, secretaries, and pages, all impeccably dressed in new uniforms of scarlet and gold. The Florentine nobility, a dazzling multitude, paraded in gowns of exquisite silks, velvets, and brocades adorned with a breathtaking array of jewels. The diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and ropes of lustrous pearls glittered from every neckline, every sleeve, every feathered hat, creating a truly spectacular moving display of wealth. At the center of this magnificent parade was the infant Cosimo II, carried by a high-ranking noblewoman, often the Duchess's wet nurse or a close relative. The christening gown was a marvel of the finest Florentine craftsmanship. It was fashioned from the most exquisite white satin, so soft it seemed to float, and was entirely embroidered with thousands of pearls, often forming intricate patterns of tiny flowers and the Medici crest. Small, perfectly cut diamonds were woven into the embroidery, shimmering with every slight movement. Over the gown, a canopy of gold brocade, its edges fringed with gold and silver bells, was held aloft by 4 of the most senior Florentine noblemen, adding to the visual grandeur and symbolic protection of the future Grand Duke. Grand Duke Ferdinando I, a figure of dignified power, walked alongside his wife, Christine of Lorraine. Ferdinando wore a suit of deep crimson velvet embroidered with intricate gold patterns, a testament to his wealth. Christine, known for her regal bearing, was a vision in a gown of white satin, heavily adorned with a staggering amount of precious jewels, including a magnificent necklace of diamonds and a diadem that sparkled with large emeralds. Her presence, representing the powerful French and Lorraine alliances, underscored the international significance of the event. Upon arriving at the Baptistery of San Giovanni, the crowds parted as the procession entered. Inside, the ancient building had been completely transformed. Hundreds of beeswax candles, arranged in towering candelabras of gilded bronze, filled the octagonal space with a warm flickering light, illuminating the magnificent mosaics of the dome, making them seem to glow with an inner fire. The air was heavy with the rich scent of frankincense and myrrh, mingled with the delicate perfume of thousands of freshly cut flowers, lilies, roses, and orange blossoms arranged around the altar in the baptismal font. The ancient marble font, typically stark, was now draped with lengths of cloth of gold embroidered with the Medici and Lorraine coats of arms, a visible blend of the powerful lineages. Priests, in their most splendid vestments, woven with gold and silver thread, conducted the ceremony with solemn dignity. The godparents for Cosimo II were figures of immense European power and prestige, including representatives from the courts of Spain and the Holy Roman Empire, as well as the Pope, their presence affirming the Medici's strong political and religious alliances across the continent. The feast that followed at the Palazzo Pitti was an event of legendary scale and extravagance. The grand halls, including the Salone del Feste, had been prepared with astonishing detail. Long tables, covered with damask tablecloths of the finest quality, gleamed under the light of hundreds of candles. The tableware itself was a dazzling display of solid gold platters and bowls, intricately chased silver serving dishes, Venetian crystal goblets that sparkled with every movement, and rare porcelain from China, each piece a prized possession. The menu was an astonishing testament to the Medici's global reach and culinary ambition. Roasted peacocks, their iridescent plumage meticulously reassembled after cooking, were presented alongside gilded swans, whole roasted boars adorned with garlands, venison from the Grand Ducal hunts, and an incredible variety of exotic birds and fish, some flown in specially for the event. Spices from the Far East, including cinnamon, cloves, saffron, and nutmeg, flavored every dish, from complex meat pies to delicate sweet pastries. The most captivating elements were the elaborate sugar sculptures known as trionfi, which adorned the tables. These were not merely edible decorations, but intricate allegorical scenes depicting mythological narratives, great moments from Florentine history, and triumphs of the Medici family, all crafted with astonishing precision. One particularly famous trionfo was a replica of the city of Florence itself, complete with miniature buildings and bridges, all made entirely of sugar. During the extensive banquet, which often lasted for many hours, a continuous stream of entertainment unfolded. Musicians played delicate compositions on lutes, viols, and harps, transitioning to lively dance tunes. As the evening progressed, singers performed complex madrigals and popular ballads. Acrobats and tumblers performed feats of agility and balance. Jesters and comedians provided witty and often satirical commentary, entertaining the guests with their clever dialogue. More elaborate performances included short allegorical plays, often with complex stage machinery and special effects, designed to praise the Medici dynasty and celebrate the new heir. The flow of wine from the Medici's own esteemed vineyards and from rare imported vintages was ceaseless, poured from ornate silver ewers into crystal goblets. Every sense was engaged, from the visual splendor of the decorations and costumes to the tantalizing aromas and flavors of the food, and the rich sounds of music and laughter. This was a multi-sensory experience designed to overwhelm and impress every single guest, ensuring a lasting memory of Medici magnificence. The gifts presented to the infant Cosimo II were not mere tokens, they were statements of allegiance and expressions of immense wealth. Godparents representing powerful European houses presented chests filled with freshly minted gold ducats, jewels of dazzling brilliance, including large emeralds, rubies, and ropes of perfect pearls, and exquisite works of art, such as miniature paintings and intricately carved ivory pieces. Ambassadors from foreign courts brought rare items symbolizing their nation's finest craftsmanship, bolts of pure silk from China, rare furs from Russia, and delicate Venetian glass. Prominent Florentine families, eager to secure or maintain their favor, offered finely wrought silver pieces, illuminated manuscripts, and precious relics. Merchants contributed chests of rare spices, exotic perfumes, and finely tooled leather goods. Each gift was a tangible expression of loyalty and a symbol of the Medici's central position in European politics, commerce, and culture. Beyond the palace walls, the christening of Cosimo II was a cause for citywide celebration. Ferdinando I understood the importance of popular goodwill and the city's squares and streets became stages for public festivities. In the Piazza della Signoria and other key squares, several fountains were made to flow with wine for the common people who gathered to drink and toast the new air. Street performers, including acrobats, jugglers, and storytellers, entertained the crowds with their skills. In the evenings, the Florentine sky was lit up by spectacular fireworks displays designed by master pyrotechnicians, often depicting allegorical scenes or the Medici coat of arms, showering sparks of gold and silver over the Arno River. Torchlit parades, featuring citizens in historical costumes, added to the festive atmosphere, weaving through the illuminated streets, accompanied by music and cheers. These public displays ensured that even the humblest citizen felt a part of the Medici's triumph, solidifying their popular appeal and reinforcing their benevolent image. The celebrations extended for several days beyond the formal christening and banquet. They were grand masked balls, often held in the newly decorated halls of Palazzo Pitti, where the nobility danced until the early hours, their identities playfully concealed behind elaborate masks. Hunting parties were organized in the vast ducal hunting grounds, allowing guests to participate in noble sport in the company of the Grand Duke himself. Private theatrical performances, including elaborate masques and early operas, were staged within the palace, showcasing the Medici's immense patronage of the arts and their innovative spirit. Every event, from the grandest banquet to the most intimate gathering, was meticulously planned, ensuring that every moment was a testament to the Medici's power, wealth, and sophisticated taste. The christening of Cosimo II de' Medici was an unforgettable milestone, a meticulously crafted spectacle that firmly established the Medici as the undisputed ruling dynasty of Tuscany and a formidable cultural and political force on the European stage. Number 1. The glorious christening of Maria de' Medici in 1573. The year 1573 in Florence was unlike any other. The air crackled with an almost palpable sense of anticipation, a grand current of excitement that swept through every piazza, every workshop, every gilded hall. This was not merely the birth of another Medici child, it was the birth of Maria, daughter of Grand Duke Francesco I de' Medici and Joanna of Austria, a child destined for a legendary future as the Queen of France. Her christening was not just an event, it was a diplomatic masterpiece, a statement of unparalleled power and dynastic ambition designed to echo across the entire continent. Florence prepared for a spectacle that would redefine the meaning of lavish. Weeks, even months before the christening, the Grand Ducal Court at the Palazzo Pitti became a whirlwind of activity. Every single detail, from the grandest architectural flourish to the smallest stitch on a servant's livery, was meticulously planned. Master artisans from across Tuscany and beyond converged on Florence, their skills pressed into service. Painters created vast allegorical frescoes for temporary structures, sculptors crafted elaborate decorations, and weavers toiled over tapestries that would line the procession route. The kitchens, under the direction of master chefs, became a hub of culinary innovation, planning banquets that would feature ingredients sourced from the furthest corners of the known world. The entire city held its breath, ready for the most extravagant display of wealth and power it had ever witnessed. The christening procession for Maria de' Medici was an awe-inspiring parade, designed to be a living, breathing testament to the Medici's imperial connections and their unshakable power. The route from Palazzo Pitti to the Baptistery of San Giovanni was meticulously prepared, scrubbed clean, and transformed into a triumphal path. Fresh sand was laid down to ensure smooth passage for the horses and participants. Every building along the processional way was adorned with tapestries of silk and gold thread, many depicting scenes from classical antiquity and the glorious history of the Medici family. Banners emblazoned with the Medici coat of arms, the 6 red balls, interspersed with the double-headed eagle of the Habsburgs, flew from every balcony, signifying the powerful union of the two dynasties. Some musicians, positioned at strategic intervals, played continuous fanfares on silver trumpets, their powerful sounds reverberating through the city, creating an immersive auditory experience. The procession commenced with a spectacular display of military might units of the Grand Ducal Guard, their armor polished to a blinding sheen, their halberds held aloft, marched with disciplined precision. They were followed by representatives of every Florentine guild, each proudly displaying their distinctive emblems and wearing rich robes of office. The diplomatic corps, numbering dozens of ambassadors from every major European court, Spain, France, England, the Holy Roman Empire, Venice, and the Papal States followed, their retinues a kaleidoscope of national colors and heraldry. Following them was the vast and glittering household of the Medici, including chamberlains, secretaries, pages, and hundreds of personal servants, all dressed in sumptuous new liveries of red and gold velvet. The Florentine nobility formed a truly breathtaking part of the parade, their attire a dazzling competition of wealth and fashion. Gentlemen wore doublets of rich brocade and velvet, adorned with ropes of pearls and large, glittering jewels. Ladies were encased in gowns of shimmering silks and velvets, their bodices intricately laced, their sleeves puffed and slashed to reveal contrasting fabrics. Diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and ropes of lustrous pearls seemed to cascade from every part of their attire, turning the street into a moving river of light and sparkle. One contemporary account described the sheer number of pearls on display as being enough to bankrupt a small kingdom. At the very heart of this incredible display was the infant Maria, carried by a high-ranking noblewoman, often the child's wet nurse, but on this occasion a Florentine countess of ancient lineage. The christening gown for Maria was a legendary garment, whispered to be a priceless work of art. It was fashioned from the finest white satin, so exquisite it seemed to glow with an inner luminescence, and was entirely embroidered with thousands of tiny seed pearls, forming intricate patterns of lilies and Medici spheres. Small, perfectly cut diamonds were meticulously set into the embroidery, shimmering with every gentle movement. Over the infant, a magnificent canopy of cloth of gold, fringed with gold and silver bells, was held aloft by 4 of the most senior Florentine noblemen, adding to the visual grandeur and symbolic protection of the future queen. Grand Duke Francesco I, a figure of stern authority and immense pride, walked alongside his wife, Joanna of Austria. Francesco wore a suit of deep crimson velvet, intricately embroidered with gold thread, a testament to his ducal status. Joanna, known for her regal bearing and her Austrian imperial connections, was truly breathtaking in a gown of shimmering silver brocade, heavily adorned with a staggering amount of precious jewels, including a magnificent diamond necklace that reportedly cost more than a small town, and a diadem that sparkled with large emeralds and sapphires. Her presence, representing the powerful Habsburg-Medici alliance, underscored the international significance of the event. Upon reaching the Baptistery of San Giovanni, the massive bronze doors were flung open, revealing an interior utterly transformed. Hundreds of beeswax candles arranged in towering candelabras of gilded bronze filled the octagonal space with a warm, golden light, illuminating the magnificent mosaics of the dome, making them seem to shimmer with renewed intensity. The air was heavy with the rich, intoxicating scent of frankincense and myrrh, mingling with the delicate perfume of thousands of freshly cut flowers, white lilies, roses, and fragrant orange blossoms, arranged in elaborate displays around the altar and the baptismal font. The ancient marble font, typically stark, was now draped with lengths of cloth of gold, exquisitely embroidered with the Medici and Habsburg coats of arms, a visible blend of the powerful lineages. Priests in their most splendid vestments, woven with gold and silver thread, and adorned with precious stones, conducted the ceremony with utmost solemnity. The godparents for Maria were figures of immense European power and prestige, including representatives from the courts of Spain and the Holy Roman Empire, as well as the Pope, their presence affirming the Medici's strong political and religious alliances across the continent, signaling Maria's future significance. The feast that followed at the Palazzo Pitti was an event of mythical proportions, a culinary and theatrical masterpiece designed to overwhelm every sense. The grand halls, including the massive Salone del Feste, had been prepared with astonishing detail. Long tables, stretching for what seemed like an endless length, were covered with damask tablecloths of the finest quality, imported from Flanders, and gleamed under the light of thousands of candles. The tableware itself was a dazzling display of wealth and artistry, solid gold platters and bowls, intricately chased silver serving dishes, Venetian crystal goblets that sparkled with every movement, and rare porcelain from China, each piece a prized possession, valued more highly than pure gold. The menu was an astonishing testament to the Medici's global reach and culinary ambition. Roasted peacocks, their iridescent plumage meticulously reassembled after cooking and adorned with real jewels, were presented alongside gilded swans, whole roasted boars adorned with garlands of laurel, venison from the Grand Ducal hunts, and an incredible variety of exotic birds and fish, some flown in specially for the event from distant lands. Spices from the Far East, including cinnamon, cloves, saffron, nutmeg, and ginger, flavored every dish, from complex meat pies and savory tarts to delicate sweet pastries and candied fruits. The most captivating elements were the elaborate sugar sculptures known as triumphi, which adorned the tables. These were not merely edible decorations, but intricate allegorical scenes depicting mythological narratives, great moments from Florentine history, and triumphs of the Medici family, all crafted with astonishing precision and scale. One particularly famous triunfo was a full-scale replica of the Colosseum in Rome, rendered entirely in sugar, standing several feet high and surrounded by miniature gladiators, also made of sugar. Throughout the incredibly long banquet, which could last for many hours, a continuous stream of entertainment unfolded seamlessly. Musicians positioned in elevated galleries played delicate compositions on lutes, viols, and harps, transitioning to lively dance tunes as the evening progressed. Singers performed complex madrigals and popular ballads, their voices soaring through the vast halls. Acrobats and tumblers performed feats of agility and balance, while jesters and comedians provided witty and often satirical commentary, entertaining the guests with their clever dialogue and antics. More elaborate performances included short allegorical plays, often with complex stage machinery, special effects like artificial clouds and fountains, and intricate costumes, all designed to praise the Medici dynasty and celebrate the new heir, often hinting at her future greatness. The flow of wine from the Medici's own esteemed vineyards and from rare imported vintages was ceaseless, poured from ornate silver ewers into crystal goblets that sparkled under the candlelight. Every sense was engaged, from the visual splendor of the decorations and costumes to the tantalizing aromas and flavors of the food and the rich sounds of music and laughter. This was a multi-sensory immersion, designed to overwhelm and impress every single guest, ensuring a lasting memory of Medici magnificence and power. The gifts presented to the infant Maria were not merely tokens, they were statements of allegiance, expressions of immense wealth, and strategic political offerings. Godparents, representing the most powerful European houses, presented chests filled with freshly minted gold ducats, jewels of dazzling brilliance, including large emeralds, rubies, and ropes of perfect pearls, and exquisite works of art, such as miniature paintings, intricately carved ivory pieces, and small bronze sculptures by renowned masters. Ambassadors from foreign courts brought rare items symbolizing their nation's finest craftsmanship, and exotic goods bolts of pure silk from China, rare furs from Russia, delicate Venetian glass of unparalleled beauty, and even unusual animals like parrots and monkeys for the Grand Ducal menagerie. Prominent Florentine families, eager to secure or maintain their favor with the ruling house, offered finely wrought silver pieces, illuminated manuscripts of great beauty, and precious relics. Merchants contributed chests of rare spices, exotic perfumes in ornate bottles, and finely tooled leather goods. Each gift was a tangible expression of loyalty and a symbol of the Medici's central position in European politics, commerce, and culture, accumulating a dowry that foreshadowed her future marriage. Beyond the palace walls, the christening of Maria was a cause for citywide celebration on an unprecedented scale. Francesco I understood the importance of popular goodwill and spectacle, and the city's squares and streets became grand stages for public festivities. In the Piazza della Signoria, and other key squares, several fountains were made to flow, not with water, but with wine, for the common people, who gathered in vast numbers to drink freely and toast the new air. Street performers, including acrobats, jugglers, fire eaters, and storytellers, entertained the crowds with their astonishing skills and tales. In the evenings, the Florentine sky was lit up by spectacular fireworks displays designed by master pyrotechnicians, often depicting elaborate allegorical scenes, the Medici coat of arms, or even the initial of the newborn showering sparks of gold and silver over the Arno River, reflected in its dark waters. Torchlit parades, featuring citizens in historical costumes and accompanied by musicians and performers, added to the festive atmosphere, weaving through the illuminated streets, accompanied by joyous cheers and shouts of celebration. These public displays ensured that even the humblest citizen felt a part of the Medici's triumph, solidifying their popular appeal and reinforcing their benevolent image as rulers who shared their prosperity with their people. The celebrations extended for several days beyond the formal christening and banquet, transforming Florence into a continuous festival. There were grand masked balls, often held in the newly decorated halls of Palazzo Pitti, where the nobility danced until the early hours, their identities playfully concealed behind elaborate and often jeweled masks. Hunting parties were organized in the vast ducal hunting grounds, allowing guests to participate in noble sport in the company of the Grand Duke and Duchess themselves. Private theatrical performances, including elaborate masques and early operas, were staged within the palace, showcasing the Medici's immense patronage of the arts and their innovative spirit in developing new forms of entertainment. These performances often featured intricate sets, special effects, and elaborate costumes reflecting the cutting edge of Renaissance stagecraft. Every event, from the grandest banquet to the most intimate gathering, was meticulously planned, down to the smallest detail, ensuring that every moment was a testament to the Medici's power, wealth, and sophisticated taste. The christening of Maria de Medici was an unforgettable milestone, a meticulously crafted spectacle that firmly established the Medici as the undisputed ruling dynasty of Tuscany and a formidable cultural and political force on the European stage, setting the stage for her future as a queen.